So we're going to continue sharing about Gen X and some of the coping traits for disappointment. I know, Brian, one of the things that we were talking about was how they were self-reliant. They use humor, withdrawal, and what I said earlier, music or pop culture. It seems like our generation was, and I don't know about the other generations, but we went more into music. Music was our outlet. Would you guys say that? It was like how we learned to express ourselves. It's like we couldn't do it with the words because our parents were like, suck it up. Not all parents. Mom, you're amazing. We're not talking about you because you know my mom's going to watch this. But seriously, I remember expressing myself through music, and through the different things that I watched. So one of the ways that we learn to deal with disappointment through Gen X, what I've learned and what I've seen in my peers is dealing with humor. A lot of times, even dark humor, to sarcasm, to express our feelings, because we didn't really learn to talk about disappointment, but we did express them, right? So, what have you guys seen, my Gen Xers? What do y'all think about that?
I think that's on point. Yeah, definitely sarcasm was a way of coping.
Yeah.
And we looked at just suck it up. Just you're fine, you'll be okay. And we stuffed a lot of emotions during that time. So music definitely was an outlet, but for sure sarcasm, and we stuffed our emotions.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah, I'd like to add, that just brought something to mind. Of course, this was back in the day before cell phones, and we had these things called payphones. But one of the common phrases back then was, here's a quarter, go call somebody who cares. Right? And that was part of that, keeping it internal.
Yeah.
I don't care about your feelings, suck it up, and just move on. Why are you dwelling on this? That kind of thing. But that was again, here's my disclaimer, Mom, if you watch this, I'm not complaining, but that was just the way some of us were raised.
Right. Yeah.
Besides,
because of the generation before, you didn't talk about it, so.
Yeah, if it's not bleeding profusely or broken, don't bother me with it. Is kind of what it boiled down to.
Well, and I think we were talking about how in that generation, at least among my family members, which I love dearly, but children were to be seen, not heard.
Yeah.
And so, you didn't communicate until you were asked, and even then.
And then how many times growing up did anybody ever say to any of my Gen X, or really most of us here, how do you feel about that?
Never.
Never. Nobody ever asked me how I felt.
Don't care.
No, logic was to rule feelings, not the other way around.
Yes.
Mental health wasn't in fashion for everyday problems. Mental health resources were for people who were crazy. And so if you needed, whereas I understand some other generations use it more to cope and to learn coping skills, Gen X didn't learn that. They learned that mental health was for people that were not okay.
Which is a big problem because we're both first responders before we became chaplains.
Yeah.
And which is a really big problem for our first responders, your police, fire, EMS, military, because that's the way we were trained. So now that there is ample help available for things like PTSD and all the things that we deal with, our generation is still kind of standoffish, and probably even the preceding generations standoffish from mental health a lot of times because of the type of stuff that what you just said.
Yep.
It was
So there's like a stigma.
Well, there is a stigma.
Yeah, and our Generation X has been the last generation to kind of unstigmatize, if that's a word.
Yes.
That.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
it makes sense.
We're going to move on to millennials. We only have one millennial here representing today, but she's an amazing millennial.
Yes.
Millennials were born between 1981 and 1996. And some of the traits, James, I'll let you read through those traits if you don't mind.
Yeah, some of the traits of millennials are idealistic, collaborative, and values-driven. A lot of times they respond to disappointment with strong emotional reactions, and that's due to high expectations and their ambitious nature. They're more likely to discuss feelings and seek support, including therapy, which we were just talking about. And their coping style is they talk it out, whether it be therapy, social media. Yeah, you knew we were going to go there eventually, right? And also self-reflection and memes.
They're the meme generation.
The meme generation is the millennials, and I'm sure Bethany will talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think, Bethany? Do you feel like those things describe your generation? I know you're, it doesn't necessarily have to describe you, but how did you see that your generation learned to deal with disappointments?
Yeah, I think the rise of social media definitely helped with that. A lot of the millennials will express how they feel on social media often.
Often.
Yeah.
Yes, and I guess it's a way of releasing how we feel.
Yeah.
That way we don't keep it in, and then it would not be good to keep it in.
Do you feel like that your peers talk a lot more face to face, or do you feel like it's more just social media? I mean, do you feel like if you're in a group of your friends that you guys are more likely to talk about feelings and disappointments?
I think for sure, actually both.
Okay.
Post on social media and talk about how we feel, but to find a resolution and not just. I feel like the millennials, they value being real.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Like I always hear, be real with me
Right.
from the millennials, and yeah, I like that.
Yeah, which I probably has like I said, that they will actually included therapy because they're wanting to actually process it out. They're not wanting to just keep it in. It sounds like would you think that would describe your generation? They want to be able to process it. They want to be able to fix it.
Yes, for sure, and I feel like it with the millennials, it became acceptable to express your feelings.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Which is really weird because a lot of millennials had either Gen X parents or Boomer parents, and so it's really weird how it transitioned from the Boomers, Gen X to the millennials, and I don't even know how all that worked. Maybe the Gen X realized that it was just they needed to stop just not talking about it because nobody had been listening to them ever, and so I think a lot of them probably did start talking to their kids about sharing their feelings and stuff, even if we didn't know how a lot of times. So I think that's where the change, even some of the boomers, it just started to be able to trend to let's get out of this, not talking about our disappointments, not talking about our loss. But anything else that you want to share about your generation, since you are representing a whole generation by yourself here?
A lot of pressures.
No pressure.
No pressure.
No, I don't think got anything else for you.
All right, okay. So now we're moving on to Generation Z, born between 1997 and 2012, and we have one representing Gen Z here. And do you want to talk, you want to go through the traits, Landon?
Okay, so their traits are realistic, mentally health aware, and adaptive. Their response to disappointment is highly aware of mental health and more open to seeking help. Maybe more vulnerable to anxiety and burnout, partly due to digital overload.
Wow, yeah.
Often question societal systems and don't always accept that's just how it is.
Yeah.
Coping style, digital venting, TikTok, Reddit, therapy, community validation.
Wow. What do you think about that list? I mean, it refers to your generation. Do you agree with all that?
Digital venting through TikTok, Reddit, and I definitely can see my generation doing that a lot with their big feelings as well. That's all they do. They love to argue online, and community validation. You can just look up what your problem is online right now, and there'll be like a link first thing.
Yeah.
And I guess that's where community validation comes from. You can look at other people's answers online of what your problem is or what you're feeling right now.
Like Dear Abby and our
Yeah, right.
Like, how do you deal with disappointment of like, I don't know, growing up with an abusive parent or something? And you can just look that problem up online these days and
So do you feel like that
That's where they get their answers from.
so they have their answers. Do you feel like that your generation is actually processing disappointment? Or, I mean, are they actually processing it to where, like, if they have grief or loss or something, do you feel like your generation is processing those things, or do they just kind of just putting it out there?
I mean,
Good question.
I think they put their problems out there on like a post or something, and they're hoping that the comments below validate their problems. Or
Yeah,
um,
that's good.
highly aware of mental health and more open to seeking help. I don't know, Brian, you want to help me out?
Sure. I did a lot of research on Gen Z for a different training that we did a year or two ago. And what the research says are that they want to process, but because they grew up in such a digital world where social media was a primary method of communication as opposed to face, they're not really sure how to talk it out and find answers. So that's why they seek mental health. And the number one thing is for employers survey their employees for what would you want to make this workplace better. Back in baby boomers or Gen X, it's gyms. I want a gym. I want a better cafeteria, better selections for lunch. And the number one response to those surveys now by the Gen Z employees are, I want an in-house counselor to help me figure out the solution to the problem, because you can find anything online and everything contradicts itself, and they don't have the person-to-person communication, peer, work out the problem together thing that maybe Gen Z or Gen X or baby boomers had. If you had a problem, you talked to your friends. Well, now it's on blast to the world, and your response is digital, and there's not that back and forth bouncing of ideas against a person. And so they recognize that those skills aren't as developed as other generations, according to research. And so they're seeking out how to fill in the gaps and how to go back and learn a skill that they learned to do digitally instead of in person. So that's why the statistics show they're more apt to seek mental health, because they view that as a resource where that person has to sit and talk it out with them.
Right. And one of the things I've noticed is on social media is that a lot of times they're putting their feelings out there, but they're just getting bashed for it, which doesn't make a lot of sense, because you'll see somebody be completely real. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be Gen Z, but it is mostly Gen Z. And they're putting their feelings out there. They're putting that out there, but then their peers are being very mean. Have you noticed that a lot too, Landon? With that, it's like, it almost seems like it's, why would you put that out there? They're just going to bash you.
Toxic atmosphere online, but it's
Yeah.
just every comment section is
I agree.
people just hating everybody.
Yeah. So it's almost like they're not working through their disappointments or their trauma. They're actually adding more, it seems like, with that. And I have heard, and we talked about this in the last podcast that James and I did on self-care, that Gen Z has actually been coined the loneliest generation. I believe you taught us that in your training, Brian, back a year ago, because they are, all of their interactions are social media, it's digital, things like that. And so they don't really have a lot of the face-to-face friendships and a lot of these things that a lot of the other generations did. I mean, we had to learn to work it out in our generation. We didn't have social media. We didn't have those things really back then. So we had to learn to process it out. And we didn't do it the right way necessarily. But this generation it's easier, would you say, Landon, it's easier for you guys to hide?
Definitely.
Because everything is, on social media. Is there anything else you wanted to add about that with disappointment, how your generation handles disappointment?